Hey, Robyn Openshaw here. This is the Robyn Openshaw Bitcoin channel where I mostly am talking to Gen X. Okay, if you're my age, which is I think the boomers start at age 60, so I'm a little bit younger than that, but you had to cross the technology bridge. You had to, in your career, learn how to use a smartphone, learn how to use the internet, get really ninja at finding stuff on the internet, learn 50 new technologies in the course of your career. Our parents didn't necessarily have to learn it. We are the generation who it becomes absolutely imperative, I think non-optional for us to understand Bitcoin. So what I like to do here is give you bite-sized chunks. My videos may feel a little bit like a fire hose, but I keep them short. So I have a lot to say about my probably about 1,500 hours of research now in Bitcoin. The more I learn, the more I want to learn, and the deeper it goes to the point where I think that what we've discovered, those single digit percentage of us who really understand Bitcoin, it's 14.3% of Americans own Bitcoin. I personally think that's probably own a Bitcoin wallet. A lot of people sold it because they didn't understand what they owned. But River Financial came out with a study in May that said that 14.3% of Americans own Bitcoin. At this point, there's plenty of Americans who own Bitcoin who don't know that they own Bitcoin because there are 11 big banks in America who have ETFs or electronically traded funds, and people are invested in them, and they may not even know that their financial advisor has them in a big fund that has Bitcoin in it. So more and more people are going to have exposure to Bitcoin. Maybe they don't even actually own any actual underlying Bitcoin and holding it on a cold wallet, like those of us who were coming in 5 and 6 years ago were doing. That's the way to own the actual underlying asset that the banks are buying. Like right now, the big buyers of Bitcoin are banks and public companies putting it on their treasuries. So the sleeping giants are coming awake, realizing that the dollar's in trouble, all fiat currencies are in trouble, and they care about it. So, what I want to talk about today is the evidence about what Donald Trump and his administration is doing. One of the things that I have to bring up that I think is super, super curious and important is that there's nobody on the Trump in the Trump administration that isn't pro Bitcoin. They are vocally, articulately pro Bitcoin. I don't think that's an accident. It seemed to me almost like coming in the gate in 2024, they were vetted for being pro Bitcoin or not. My guess is that some of them didn't own Bitcoin and were told you better go start learning about it because it's going to be a big part of this administration's agenda. I personally think that by the time Trump leaves office, that we will have some form of bit bonds where the US government can issue bonds, but only have to pay us if we're investing in T-bills or bonds, maybe pay us like a small fraction of what they did before. And then they invest the rest in Bitcoin. And there's a share between the government and between the investor of the upside of the Bitcoin. That's out there. There's companies starting to come into the space saying we're going to develop bit bond type products. I personally think that the Donald Trump administration wants to have Bitcoin be a huge part of the refinancing of America. We're in it right now, whether you're aware of it or not, but literally by the end of 2025, we have to roll over somewhere between 8 and $9 trillion worth of debt. So what that means is a whole bunch of people who invested in bonds, which is debt, lent money to the US of A in the form of bonds or T-bills, which T-bills are just short-term bonds, basically. Like you're lending money, but you get it back in a month or 2 months or 4 months. Um, so the US government has to pay those people back. And those people might be public companies, and they might be pension funds, and they might be other sovereign nations. Well, especially some Asian nations are now no longer buying US bonds. And China, most notably, has not bought any new bonds. They are sort of divesting themselves and getting out. And even like close American allies are buying a lot less bonds than they used to, probably because the US is in so much debt. It's been downrated by all the credit rating agencies. And, one at a time, like I think the first one I saw was in like 2022, something like that. But anyways, it's been downrated from a triple A rated um set of assets, or investing in the United States was a triple A rated thing you can always take to the bank. You can always count on it, to now it's double A. That is a warning to the world. Okay. There's other reasons why other countries don't want to invest in us, such as the fact that we froze like $300 billion worth of Russia's money on the SWIFT system. Not necessarily like us like the United States, but it's over in Brussels, it's in Europe, but the West, the Western countries and our banking system and our payment rails, the SWIFT system, we froze $300 billion of Russia's money. I think it was in 2021, and we haven't given any of it back. And Putin is basically saying, yeah, well, I'm kind of writing it off, and you guys can just assume that this sort of sends a shot off the bow to the whole world that we need to use different systems. We need to detach from the West. Okay, the Genius Act, I'm not sure if it's passed yet. I know it's passed at least one of the two houses of our legislature. The Genius Act puts a regulatory framework around stablecoins. Stablecoins, I think, will make the dollar last many years longer than it otherwise would have, as, like I said, all the dynamics I just explained to you, that was gross oversimplification. But the stablecoin regulatory framework in what was called the Genius Act, I don't know what's going to come out the other end. I don't know if it'll be called the Genius Act. That was like one of the steps that the Trump administration has in mind. But then now Donald Trump is pushing hard for a bill around cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. But what we do know, what he was very public about, is he did have a big whole day seminar on digital assets. Some of the crypto projects like Ripple came flying in to try to lobby everybody to try to get the US government investing in XRP. Thank God they didn't. XRP has not delivered on any of its promises in the last 16 years. There's no cap of 21 million coins. You go to the Ripple website and look up their partners. Good luck finding anybody who's actually using the payment rails that XRP promised. People will probably yell at me in comments for having said that. But you know what? Crypto projects are starting to, if they have excess cash because they raised a bunch of money because people invested in their project, they're starting to invest in Bitcoin. That should tell you something, when the other crypto projects are building a treasury of Bitcoin. So the whole Trump administration, just to finish my earlier point, even down to like the former Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. are big Bitcoin fans and personally invested in Bitcoin. These are people who should be as aware as anybody is how much trouble the whole current global order is, how much trouble the fiat currencies are in, how much debt nation states are in, and they are separating themselves from that system in their own personal lives and investing in Bitcoin, where there's a 21 million cap. There can never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. It's not a rule written somewhere, it's baked in the cake, it's in the code. Nobody can ever create more Bitcoin. The miners are out there mining for it. There's a whole network and a whole system. Nobody's been able to game it whatsoever in the last 16 years. And the more it's been battle tested, the more countries and public companies are coming into the space. So retail investors like you and I, we're becoming, we're not the fastest growing group of people investing in Bitcoin. It's public companies and it's governments. So Trump he was making a lot of noise about it. He appointed a new cabinet position, the AI and crypto czar. His name is David Sachs. He used to be COO of PayPal. And so he has told David Sachs and his whole team, which includes a former NFL guy who's like director of digital assets, whose name is Bo Hines. He's told those guys, I want a plan. I want it on my desk. He's pushing it hard. Why? Why is it so urgent for Donald Trump to get the US as deep in Bitcoin as possible? Sure, he announced an executive order. I've created a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But then we have the issue of, how do we fund it? How do we spend billions and billions and billions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars on Bitcoin so that our treasury is shored up and our dollars are actually backed by something, well, that's probably a matter for legislation. And we do have a very heroic Wyoming senator named Cynthia Loomis who has a bill. Her Bitcoin bill basically takes us somewhat out of gold in our gold reserves and moves it into Bitcoin, which is better than gold. Okay, if you think I'm crazy, I probably have done a video on that, but if not, ask me down below and I'll do a video on why Bitcoin is better than gold. Gold has actually failed us over the last several hundred years in a bunch of ways, and we're just going to a more and more digital world, and money has to move very fast, and gold is the opposite of that. Okay, you send your gold across the ocean, you've got to get entire airplanes or boats, and you have to insure them, and you need guys with guns where the gold leaves, all the way to where the gold is received. When I sold my gold, it literally took an entire day and 6 people at a brokerage to sit there and count my gold and like compensate me for it. And I just put it all into Bitcoin. So just imagine on a national scale, like American presidents have not been in and sat there and counted the gold in the at Fort Knox. So I think this presidency is preparing to invest as deeply in Bitcoin as humanly possible. Sure, the legislature, both houses have to approve budget neutral ways to get the United States of America as invested in Bitcoin as possible before the price goes through the roof, because we are not the only country wanting to invest in Bitcoin. There are countries who are way ahead of us in terms of the executive branch understanding it as an asset and wanting to own as much of it as possible. We've already seen El Salvador invest in Bitcoin like 5 or 6 years ago, and then the price went up so much that they were actually able to pay off their entire national debt. Now, President Bukele of El Salvador has gone out and taken out another loan. Like he's got big plans for El Salvador. And then he took the loan from the IMF and bought Bitcoin with it. And IMF doesn't like it. And the IMF has said you can't, as a nation, have Bitcoin as legal tender. And so it looks to me like what Bukele has done is he just quits talking about it being legal tender, but he's not out there enforcing shutting down vendors who are taking Bitcoin. So that's been an interesting situation. The country of Bhutan, yes, I know it's in the Middle East. I know that you don't know anything about Bhutan. Who does? It's a very small country. I get it, but they have half of their GDP socked away in Bitcoin. So I'm just giving you examples. There's plenty of others. The state of Texas here in the US just passed a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill and has already set aside, is in process, somewhere in the process of investing $10 million for their first tranche of Bitcoin. So this kind of thing is going on all over the world. It's like an arms race, but it's a Bitcoin race. There will come a day when everybody will be investing in Bitcoin just because that's where all the money went, but not because there's the big upside that there is now. But I just wanted to point out that there was no AI and crypto czar until the new Trump administration. So it's a cabinet level position, a special appointment by the president. He came in ready to go on Bitcoin. Okay, pretty much everybody paying attention thinks it has everything to do with his sons being super into Bitcoin. And by his sons, I mean literally all 3 of them. Eric Trump has given keynote speeches from the stage of a Bitcoin conference. Don Jr., Trump investor, their family is starting a Bitcoin holding company. And we don't have a lot of details about what that company is going to be, but you can bet that they are going to be buying as much Bitcoin as they can, probably are buying as much Bitcoin as they can. It's not like the public ledger shows your name on there. So you could probably with some work, some forensics work, you could be tracked down using your block on the public ledger, but it's not like it says Donald J. Trump bought this much this much Bitcoin. But we and Barron Trump, how old is he? 20 or something at the oldest. He's really educated about Bitcoin. So those three Trump sons are probably bonding and high-fiving each other and talking over the Thanksgiving dinner table about it because they're all three deeply entrenched in that world. So Trump left office in 2016 not knowing anything about Bitcoin. If he was asked about it, he said something vague and he wasn't really for it. Well, the whole Trump family has woken up, and the entire administration, including Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, are pro Bitcoin. He's pushing his AI and crypto czar hard because he wants a regulatory framework on the table. The stable coins, we won't get into a big long diatribe about stable coins, but that is so that you can ease in and out very quickly and easily of your fiat currency. Here in America, that would be dollars. This is going to let the dollar penetrate all over the world. It makes use of the dollar more frictionless. It's still backed by the dollar. Okay, Tether is the biggest. Well, I don't know, maybe Circle is, but Tether is one of the wealthiest companies in the world. It's the like fifth largest buyer of US Treasuries. They're so rich. They're just basically issuing stable coins that are one-to-one pegged to the dollar. And they have to prove, if they're in the US, they have to prove that they have all those dollars. Okay, so it can't be another scam like the dollar became when Nixon took it off the gold standard, when France and other countries were saying, hey, we want our gold back. And Richard Nixon said, we're going to just temporarily take the dollar off the gold standard. We'll give France some of their money, but now we're done with that. We're not giving anybody any gold back because, he wanted the US to keep its gold for itself. And probably because in all these countries were calling the US out for printing way more dollars than we had backing in gold. So his bluff had been called by other countries. And so he had to just detach the dollar from the gold standard. And we've been in free float, and the dollar is worth what it's worth because the US government says so. So your faith in the US dollar should be about as strong as your faith in the US government is. Do you want to learn about Bitcoin? Okay, so that's my super superficial coverage of why I think that the Trump administration is doing a few things early on to be honest with the US public and say, hey, we're going to be investing in Bitcoin. We want to be the Bitcoin powerhouse of the world. We want to be involved in all the innovating that's going on using Bitcoin. And then it's gotten very quiet. And that is what I would do if I were president of the United States of America. I would do what Trump did and make it all very clear and say what my intent was. And then I would not do like buying in public and announcing amounts, et cetera, and keeping it in the media because I wouldn't want to see the price running up. Because as there's more demand and as there's more media attention on it, the price is going to go up. So I am quite certain that the Trump administration, being, not stupid, whatever you think of the Trump administration, I don't like everything they're doing either. But I think when it comes to money, Donald Trump knows a thing or two, and he has just got everybody keeping quiet while the US does whatever it has to be prepared and start buying Bitcoin while its price is decent. Okay, right now, today, while I'm talking to you, it's like 105,000. You know what? Israel started raining bombs on Iran, and Iran fought back hard and bombed the crap out of Israel. And the Israeli legislature met and shut down Israeli citizens from being able to film it or broadcast it, severe penalties. If you showed the damage that Israel was taking, we were all completely, those of us who pay attention were like completely hijacked emotionally as America's best friend Israel is bombing the crap out of Iran. Okay, don't read anything into that. Don't call me a Zionist. I'm the last thing from Zionist. And don't call me an anti-Semite either, because I don't have one single problem with that culture of people and the rank and file basis. I have a problem with war. I don't want my children in it. I don't want my American children in the Middle East war. That's all. So All that was going on and Bitcoin stayed stable. You guys, if you think it's a super volatile currency, you should be paying attention to what's been happening with the price lately, because lately it's looked awfully stable. It did go down when the first day that Israel was bombing the crap out of Iran, it went down to like 101,000. So it went from like 100, I think it was at 110,000, went down to 101,000 for a minute. And then when I think it was when Israel broke the ceasefire and Iran did too, and they were both bombing again, it went down again, all the way down to 99,000 for a minute. Then it came back up. So honestly, it's been shocking how through the last several weeks, while we've had turmoil in the world, people are freaking out thinking we're bombing nuclear facilities. The US goes in and Donald Trump says, I bombed 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, and we're like, oh my God, is the whole Middle East going to get sick? Do they have nukes? Is somebody going to send some our way? Is that radiation going to go everywhere? This is the kind of stuff that's been on people's minds, and Bitcoin stayed stable. Okay, there were those 2 dips and then stability. So it looks like Bitcoin is becoming really kind of stepping into its own and becoming far more stable. A lot of people like the volatility of Bitcoin. Traders love it. Okay, buy low, sell high. Some people love the volatility of Bitcoin. Okay, we average people who just want to hodl it or hold on for dear life, just hold on to it and see it go up. We don't like it. We don't like Bitcoin's volatility, but it's a feature of the asset. And I just want to point out that it appears to have gotten far more stable. It's breaking its historical rules of what it's been doing for 16 years. Okay, I've talked enough, but I wanted to lay out a case for the fact that I think that the US government is doing everything in its power to become big owners of Bitcoin. The price isn't really reflecting it. Like a lot of people are saying, why isn't it at $150,000 or $200,000 by now in 2025? I have some theories about that. That'll be another video. Why isn't Bitcoin $200,000 yet? I have some ideas, but I'll save that for next time. In the meantime, I have fire hosed you enough. Please join my Wednesday night classes, link down below that gives you a 3rd month for free, and use the coupon code Robyn. My name is spelled Robyn for another $50 off, so a second discount, and join us on Wednesday nights because it takes a little bit to get your feet wet in Bitcoin and to understand it well enough to have it change your life and to have it radically change your family's future. It's not too late. It's not even close to too late. You're early still. But don't miss this. Don't be kicking yourself for the rest of your life because you saw other people who did learn it. You're not going to invest in it and keep your investment unless you understand your investment. So come join us on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be in Europe for the last 3 weeks in July. So for that, for like 3 weeks, we're going to hold class at 4 p.m. Eastern. But I tell all our members, once you sign up for class, we send you an email every week with what our topic is. Sometimes I interview somebody who's got a Bitcoin solution, whether it be health insurance or creating bonds. There's companies starting to look at creating bonds that will let us roll trillions of dollars off of our balance sheet. So many exciting things happening. Having Bitcoin as an asset that is appreciating in value more than any other asset the last 16 years, worldwide, outperforming stock markets, way outperforming bonds, outperforming gold, outperforming real estate. Definitely come learn about it because you ain't seen nothing yet in terms of where this asset's price is going. And you need to understand it. Otherwise, you'll buy some and you'll do like literally most of the people I know who've owned Bitcoin do. You'll buy some and then it'll go up 50% or 75%. You'll get super excited and you'll sell because you don't know what you own. So it's worth showing up on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Join down below, use coupon code Robyn to get $50 off, and I'll see you guys next time.